Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the CMAT Innovation and Entrepreneurship series. Let's have a look at the 15 questions for today. The first one, the most fundamental requirement for assessing the viability of a new project is, now you have to pay attention to the fact that there could be multiple correct answers. We have to go with the one that is the best amongst the given choices. Availability of government incentives is of course a needed requirement. Existence of proven technology is something that is important. Presence of sufficient market demand. Now imagine doing without this. If there is no demand, then government incentives or any technology is going to be of no use. So this is the most important. Talking about fixed deposit rates is going to happen not at the initial times. Let's go to the next one. Which motivational theory associates entrepreneurship with taking calculated risks based on competence rather than chance? We will have to look at all the options very carefully. Need for power. Yes, that is something that every human desires. Is it about business only? No. Need for affiliation? Probably yes, but that's at a later stage when you're trying to build relationships. Need for independence. That is also important. But the fact remains that the need for achievement is something that is going to make you an entrepreneur and want to be successful at it. So we go with choice D. Let's look at the third question. Which of the following does not represent a valid method of commercializing a new business idea? The fact that you have to commercialize it is going to make sure that you have to be very careful. Launching a startup. The answer is a yes, but there is a problem. The question contains the word not. So we have to look for the exception. Launching a startup is going to help you commercialize a business, which is basically help getting money from the business. Acquiring an existing business is also going to help you bring in more money. Preparing a business plan doesn't sound like a point at which you will gain any income, and operating through a franchise is obviously going to be intended to make money. So C is the correct answer. Question 4. EPCG in the context of India's foreign trade policy stands for. Now this is more of a general knowledge question. EPCG stands for Export Promotion Capital Goods. This is actually a plan by the government, something that the government does to ensure that people get incentives when they try and export goods outside. It makes things easier for them. You should be able to read about this online easily. Question 5. Entrepreneurs who incur losses due to rigid adherence. Somebody who is not flexible may not end up being a good entrepreneur. To existing production methods are referred to as imitate is to copy, not really the word we are looking for. Drone entrepreneurs, an interesting choice. Passion-driven entrepreneurs, that doesn't necessarily tell me whether they will be successful or not. Opportunistic entrepreneurs, I don't know if this is going to be a good thing or a bad one. But the one thing that we are sure of is this. A drone entrepreneur is somebody who is rigid, who probably follows a slightly traditional method of conducting a business and refuses to move with the times, right? Number 6. Entrepreneurs typically face which types of uncertainty while running a business? The answer to that is all types of uncertainty. So when you look at choices like internal and external, you know both of them are correct. So we will have to pick C. Problems could arise from within the business and from outside as well due to external factors. Question 7. Which of the following statements are correct? If you remember what I said in the previous video, it's always a good thing to have a look at the choices before you go to the given statements. The choices tell us that there is a fair chance that we will have more than one correct statement. So Don't be quick to pick an answer. Cost of internally generated funds is always zero. I talked about something called extreme choices. Always makes this an extreme choice. So this is not going to be one that we pick. I had also talked about keeping an eye on the given choices so that you can reduce the number of options that you have to deal with. A is obviously not going to be one of the things that we pick. So we are left with only three choices. Long-term projects are best financed through long-term sources. Let's assume this is false. So are we saying that long-term projects are going to be financed through short-term financing projects? The answer is no, because then you will have the hassle of defining where the money is going to come from for the project all the time. So this is going to work. A long-term project will need long-term financing. CPM can be more suitable than PERT. Now, this is where most people will get stuck. You will have to understand that these concepts have to be read about first before you can answer these questions. So my suggestion is pause the video here, go online, read about these concepts so that you understand. For now, what I can tell you is CPM is a concept that talks about certainty, and PERT is a concept that talks about probability. Both have their own pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. So saying that CPM can be more suitable than PERT in certain projects is not going to be valid, because the other side, the vice versa, is also possible. So we cannot be sure that this is going to be true all the time. But this says certain projects, so we pick this as a yes. Technical feasibility is unnecessary. No business is going to survive nowadays without being technically up to date. So this is not going to be available. Just to go back a couple of seconds, when we picked B as the correct choice, this was going to be short out because this does not contain B at all. So if you do come across a situation where you can't really define one of the statements as true or false, these options might just make your life easier, right? So B and C, the combination, option number 2 is the correct answer. The legally recognized term used to protect a brand name or logo. When you say logo, it is obviously going to be something that is visible to the eye, visible to the customer. That's not license, that's not patent, that's not trade name. The name may or may not be written. What you see is a representation of the company, the way the company wants to project itself, which is a trademark. You remember the Nike swoosh? You may not see Nike anywhere, but the swoosh is always there. Entrepreneurship is most accurately described as a lot of things, right? Let's have a look. The act of registering a new firm. Yes, very much. Willingness to take high financial risk? Maybe, but at a later stage. Initially, the risk content may be lesser. A systematic process, nicer choice, of innovation and value creation. That's what the long-term goal is supposed to be. Just registering a new firm may be the first step. It's not the whole and soul of entrepreneurship. So we go with choice number 3. Possessing a long-term vision is not enough. You will have to go and get the business registered. Now, an interesting question. We are dealing with a name here. Somebody called Gary Hamel. Which of the following is one of the key pillars for creating value for both firms and customers? You will see in the next video as well, there is one question where we will talk about management gurus. Some of them you may have already seen. Gary Hamel happens to be an American management consultant. He is a management guru, very well known for his concepts in the field of management innovation. There is no real debate on this. There is no elimination possible because he is very well known. There are many YouTube videos on him, and there are books written by him and on him as well. You can have a look at that. The next question. Which form of innovation focuses on improving existing products to serve premium or high-end customers? High-end customers. New market disruptive innovation could be with products that are cheap or costly. This is not necessarily an exciting choice. Cost-based innovation, not something that the elite customers are really worried about. Cost. Sustaining innovation, that's the correct word. Sustaining innovation is the idea that whatever you launch, whatever business you have, is going to improve by bits and pieces at every stage so that the customer is interested all the time. More often than not, because people are paying a high price, they would expect high value. That's where the high-end customers come into the picture. Low-end disruption obviously is the exact other end, the other opposite end of the spectrum, right? So we pick sustaining innovation, something that will last long. An entrepreneur who owns and manages multiple independent businesses. Let's have a look at the choices simultaneously. Keep that in mind. Corporate entrepreneur. If you remember the previous videos, there was this question that talked about corporate entrepreneur. It is somebody who acts as an entrepreneur while working within a firm. Remember, still an employee, still working for the firm. A serial entrepreneur. Serial is somebody who handles consecutive projects or is getting into businesses one after the other. That doesn't necessarily mean that this person is going to hold on to them. He or she may start a business and hand it over or sell it off and then start something else. Portfolio entrepreneur. If you understand the meaning of the term portfolio, you will know that portfolio is handling multiple things at the same time, whether it is in the field of stock markets or in the field of business. So we pick this. Owner manager is going to be every entrepreneur at some stage, but it is not going to be multiple businesses necessarily. As a venture grows, which of the following typically becomes the entrepreneur's most pressing challenge? That's an interesting question because the problems are so many when you start a new business that you can't really point at one of them. Defining long-term objectives. Yes. Is that a very big problem? No, but it is still going to remain a problem because when you want investors to put money in, they will ask you, where do you see yourself in the next 5, 7, 10, 15 years? Building and retaining a capable workforce. Yes, it is the people who make an organization. You want the right people to be there with you. Tracking operational performance. Without this, you will never know if the business is doing what it had set out to do. Managing all of the above. Now, this is the option that you should have seen before anything else. All of these three are valid points, and there is no real scale on which you can define which one is more important or more serious than the other. A business plan should present steady and manageable growth projections primarily because there could be other reasons. We are defining or we are trying to define one reason which is the biggest concern or the first concern that you start out with. A business plan should present steady and manageable growth because rapid expansion often leads to managerial failure. The opposite of steady is going to be rapid, quick. Is that of any disadvantage? If the answer is a yes, then steady is the way to go. So if rapid expansion leads to failure, this is the reason I should go for steady growth. Financial institutions dislike high growth firms. They need to see progress. Whether the size is large or small, fast or slow, doesn't really make a difference to them. Investors prefer conservative businesses. Not all of them. Operating expenses reduce profitability. Now that's true for all businesses. Keep in mind, statements such as these are called generic statements. They don't really have to apply to one situation. They are valid in all situations, across businesses, and at any stage of the development of the business. So such options are better kept away. The last question for the day, the type that we haven't seen one of. Development financial My apologies, development finance institutions play a key role in supporting the financial needs of emerging industries. Is that true? The answer is a yes. If there were no finance institutions, most people won't be able to make any head start in businesses because the money wouldn't come from anywhere. Limited access to finance is a major cause of entrepreneurial failure. That's the precise reason you want these people, these institutions, these banks to help you out with your business. So this is true. This is also true. And it seems because finance is a major cause of failure or concern, it is going to be important to have financial institutions help you out in business, right? So we go with A and R are both true, and R also does a good job of explaining why the assertion A has come about. R explains A well. The first option is the correct answer. That's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one.